So she's actually walking, guys. She's walking. And it's like 4 weeks after she got hit with the disorder. But she just walked on her own for the first time, actually. There she goes. It's still a little bit difficult, but she's walking. And that helps her survival. So yeah. We're at the same place still, because I'm trying to figure out what the best place is weather-wise, both during the day, not too hot, and not too cold during the night. And especially in the desert areas, the climates are sort of really easily extremes. And then in up the Sierra, there's a lot of snow and snowstorms going on right now, I believe. So, Ekhi! Where's Mackie going? She comes again. Yeah. Do you need help? Okay. Yeah. Oh, look who's standing. Yeah. You eating the grass? She likes to hide so a little bit. That's why she walked to the street so that she can kind of protect herself. And again, the ability to move really makes a difference with like survival-wise. If there's just a random dog showing up, or mostly that actually. She's going. Like, oh my god. Good job, Ekhi! Look, it's getting better. Yeah, we're gonna go swim in a second somewhere. Well, this is great, guys. She also slept on this last night on me. I was very sad, like, because there's some things going on, and I couldn't stop crying. And she actually made her way over, and she slept here again, and she tends to kiss my tears. If she isn't crying herself, but she wasn't crying herself. And so, yeah. Good job, Ekhi! And so the balancing, it's kind of helpful for her to practice that. I try to practice that in the water with her, because that's when her weight is kind of like less, or held by the water. And normally, I guess she would just walk with us. We actually haven't walked a lot, because I want to make sure she is taken care of. And that's my concern, kind of like if I would leave her somewhere other than a rescue, that she's like in where's Hummus going? Hummy! Hummy! What you see, Hummy? Come on. So she's the rescue and stuff, that she's like kind of on the floor all day long. Or like with the other ducks in the other household at Slab City. She's not with them, and she's with me like all the time. I moved her around her. She's in the water when I bring it to the water, and all those things, like they're kind of different if you just had them sitting in a coop. This is totally fine. I just couldn't imagine that for her right now, when she literally is like uses her first ability to walk again, to walk towards me, to sit with me, to sleep with me again. Like, okay, I got a half a heart attack. This is how they instill sort of fear in me if, with access in the car, that the keys would be inside and they lock the doors. They've done this several times in Slab City. There goes Hummy. Um, oh yeah, I just wanted to note one or two or three more things about Slab City. I'm about to actually have to maybe head back in that direction for the climate before I can leave for the semester and the follow-up appointment, because it's honestly too cold that it could cost me my life at night to just wait for medical to be approved for tests. It takes months and months and months. And again, I have to kind of be on top of that. But I have one more doctor appointment with my old doctor in Southern California, and then we'll head up north to the direct primary care doctor, who is in communication with me over email. And it's kind of interesting because all she is doing is apologizing of like the new doctor, how busy she is and not have time to respond. And I'm like, dude, you're a doctor, you're not even really, you know how special it is that she even takes the time and has the time to respond. I don't think she even like realizes that maybe, but yeah, it's just a very different feeling. It's about a phone bill, equal phone bill of like membership. It's just a different way of like working with their patients as a doctor. It's called direct primary care practice, and so I think it's funny. So then, as always with my videos, or this is the way that I think put a message out there, that sometimes it's not really like shared with like the masses, or it's maybe a unique opinion or experience. There come some like reactions back, and I don't know, Slab City is very good in doing that, a little bit passive aggressively or like indirect, instead of having this open conversation. And that open conversation is to continue to go on and allow people to join and to exit at their own free will. I think it's very hard still to do those kind of things if the consequences in the social agreement we have in Slab City, there are still people who burn your shit down, like all your shit down, or hurt you over, like me rescuing a dog last year, like just to protect their reputation, instead of like, you know, the opposite of like, you know, hey, I needed another solution, and there's just someone else able to step in. Thank God. Like, thank you. I yeah, I I don't know. So again, I want to be careful and just know that any Slab City residents, I don't intend to offend you. I just want to widen the lens a little bit, because there are a lot of videos out there from different people, with like different experience, but also different like objectives in lives. So my objective in life wasn't to go over to Slab City to live there for free, or to establish a campsite to call my own. And again, that's a personal preference. After what I seen happening the first year I was there, for the fall and winter semester, basically, and yeah, just rock cuts. Ekhi, are you walking? Oh, you're moving. Rock cuts, like way that we have to protect that campsite, and that people like me, if you don't run around with guns like shooting at people, that there are people in Slab City that do not respect that, and then has a community behind them to like kind of blame the person who was victimized. And there's responsibilities for people, like have common sense, as many people rightfully point out. Of you don't leave your stuff laying around. Um, you know, in other cities, not either, or when you're camping. Um, but I'm not talking about those kind of instances that, like, you know, um, I'm talking about people who go hunting for stuff so that they can, like, supply their own drug use or their friends, or and that is kind of like not discussed when, like, we're talking about, like, oh, you just need to, like, be smart or use common sense. No, I'm talking about a group of people actually hacking into my car and terrorizing me, like, knowingly, since the end of November till the day of today. I didn't leave my car unlocked laying around, like, in the yard. No, people planned that, premeditated that. And then when I set boundaries and asked people to stop that, that I then be, like, publicly shamed, like, for speaking up about that, and not even the content what they're saying, but, like, the fact, like, hey, there are only a few people who realize that how outrageous it is that that's happening. That there's some random guys opening and closing my windows and my car alarm and locking me in my steering wheel in the car. Um, it's inappropriate. It's not the same as, like, oh, I left my bag out there when I was drunk last night and now I lost it. Because, yeah, maybe I didn't make the smartest decision last night. That's just an example. Again, people give people's bags back a lot of times in Slab City. But many times, yeah, so there are many times that people come together over that. I'm talking about a systematically situation that has had me have to choose, actually, not to establish a campsite anymore, and that I just noticed, like, wow, there is this repetition of, like, history going on. And again, when I speak up about it, it's just unpopular because it sort of, like, attacks, like, what people who already have to fight so hard for their own things in life are fighting so hard for, that is maybe not the same as what I share with them. Um, and I also want to point out that there is actually a significant amount of individuals at Slab City that chooses not to have a campsite at all. It's harder to consistently, like, find access to charge your phone safely, like at Mike Solar or the internet cafe previously, or maybe again at Oasis Club if you have the money or the time and energy to do work exchange. But that is very different than you having one source of energy, and like solar cells or windmills, or even from a generator, and you can, like, access your phone and your film equipment and your editing tools every single day. So I just want to point it out that I have to go a little bit out of my way to make this happen, and I don't think that many people like me who choosing not to live in one campsite anymore have as much representation in the videos online, as opposed to the people who are there for semesters of the semester, even returning or staying over during the summer. Um, there is this a different, again, those are the different living standards that I'm trying to point out, that I don't know if people take it for granted, but it's definitely, like, a conversation that should be continued again, because the second part that I just want to address lastly is, like, there are other communities out here in America and everywhere else that I've been in Some are anarchistically managed, some collectively, some interdependently, some by vote. There are different ways to like go about it. But what they all did was pitching in as an individual to the larger good, not just their own household or their own camp or a few, but the whole area or the whole property or the premises. And this is a little harder in Slab City because it's public land, but that's again where those double standards come in of like, okay, is it public land that we're bordering or visiting and we need to really keep that clean and sustainable, and conserve that as not ours, or is it as well, so not and or but or is it also that certain people have the ability to own things informally, and they're still co-responsible for maintaining the whole community and the whole area. And I want to apologize again that there are community cleanup meetings and days, but that's like once in like 3 months. I wish it would be more. I hope I'm wrong, and it's like, oh, I'm wrong. It's once a month. Hey, Spirit, hey, get your facts straight. But the truth of the matter is, like, again, in those intentional other kind of communities where people choose to live either off grid or their contribution or my contribution as well as a individual participating or cohabitating an area, the average contribution per week is like 30-40 hours a week. And again, beyond your campsite, beyond your household, but for the larger good in that area. And if people who arrive like me would commit to a large amount of like community contributions, I think we could clean up the area and keep it clean, but not like once in like 3 months and then expect people whose own campsites are piled up with garbage. And again, it's not set as a deadline of, hey, in 2 weeks. It's I think actually this week there is on the 27th a community cleanup day and a chance to like drop your trash off in an organized or agreed way of what you can put in the trash bags or not, and to bring it in one location. The organization can and should be differently. That the camps using this prior time to get all their own trash and bags ready, and then the day of the community cleanup or even before that, that the community comes together and packs as much as possible, so that everything the day of the 27th, it doesn't have to start there then first at your own camp, or you're too exhausted or too overwhelmed, and then maybe another local other community area or common use area. That's a lot to ask from people when you are living forced to like having to take care of all your stuff yourself. That is part of the problems that I have kind of recognized, that by dividing that kind of work. And again, I don't believe that if you start on the 27th, because that's the day, not the deadline, but the day of community cleanup, that you with like even 1,000 people can clean up the whole area in a day. Like if everyone would that's video I made last week, beyond like the library, like past the library, that has been there before, as community cleanups have been there. And again, it's sort of like there's not one governing body. There are again, there is one non-profit, and then these community meetings where people make decisions, but there's again not a lot of effort done to like, and also it's not even an effort, it's like showing up as a person who then has maybe different ideas or rocks the boat is already hard, but yeah, there's just a lot of tradition and habits that take people a lot to establish, that then become like shaken and threatened of like by having to make changes or having to adjust to like, you know, what the larger community maybe decides is like go on me is like good for that works at this time and this age. But I think those are the things that I've recognized and I've been working with people on, that to open up and to like see if that could be a little bit more like with flexibility, like that there is opening for more feedback and not get like a whole row of like YouTube videos with indirect ways to like address things. Again, as adults and as people who choose to self-govern there, I think there's just a mismatch, and I continue to pinpoint back to what kind of people participating in a community. And again, I have mentioned the non-diversity in Slab City, and I believe this among all the other things, between like the snowbirds coming with the big RVs, and then a large group of people who arrive with nothing and have to start all over, as opposed to and then the people who are there and then steal or burn down everything. There's a lot of things to think about to survive there. And again, no offense to any of the people living at Slab City and are really, really doing a great job to like create a life that they want. Yeah, and I'm preferably looking for a place that is looking to build a life, not just for themselves, but for others. And in a sincere, genuine way. And that there's space to like receive feedback and to grow and to be really honest. And that takes like making agreements, changing agreements, updating them. Like it needs to be a safe kind of situation. And again, if you have people there burning shit down because you crossed them wrong, or you still have a large amount of people who chooses to like not stand up but to sort of like be quiet, and it is different. And I have not noticed in areas where it's developmentally like called like developmental life, like world areas, that people aren't coming together as a whole to first ensure that the whole area that they live in is livable and sustainable. Because this is about their children, their you know, their families, and that's the same with Slab City. I think that society has a lot to do with that. Of like, it doesn't make you socialist to like come together and like ensure that everyone equally can like access potable water, or has the safe ways to keep themselves safe in the house, because precisely to acknowledge like, hey, not everyone is able to like live up to those agreements. And then the other thing that I continue to hear mentioned, and that I feel like is a problem in Slab City a bit of like America is very built on like that you need to work hard and then your dreams will come through. And it's interesting that of all places, Slab City is kind of like reinforcing that. And again, not everyone is in the position to exchange work or their services in exchange for residency or being part of community. And again, that's why if you make larger agreements for a community of how to be there and how to contribute, that there is more space for certain people who may not be able to do that, and there is some funding or some extra space available for those individuals. And I'm not even mentioning or meaning myself, because I do believe that I have contributed a minimum that could maybe sustain me living somewhere with people. But I have most days that I'm completely too sick or absolutely not able to like interact or move, and then to like sort of have that blaming culture of like, well, but you should work harder because that's, you know, that's kind of how you succeed in life. There's nothing wrong with that. I think it's very natural and um, normal. However, with my friend like Judd, instead of prioritizing what he wanted, was like access to his mental health care and his medication back, people kept pushing him that he should just work and work, and then you end up with a guy who has to sort of show off that he's still keeping it together enough to work, but then breaks down during the working because he was supposed to be showing up over and over at his counselor's office instead. Um, um, and then people are really disappointed and almost angry actually that he didn't meet the standards of keeping a job while he's like battling those challenges. And it doesn't mean that he never is gonna have a job again. It just means like right now the priorities that he addressed, not me or anyone else, was medication access, and the opposition that I ran into, not just in Slab City, but his adopted family in Ireland, is that he needed to work first. Well, one, I don't even know if he's alive still, and two, he told me in the car, like, I don't know how to live even when I'm on my medication of like the street I'm walking on. I don't even know where I go next. And if people say that to me, it's kind of an indicator of like maybe that's not the best circumstance to be able to live with other people who are intensely putting in effort to like contribute to a household that depends on them at that point as well. So I'm just saying like Social Security is there for these exceptions, and say what you will of like how people may abuse it or that certain people believe that certain people like me shouldn't be having access to it. That prevents people from being trafficked or being killed or being thieves, because yeah, and I'm just saying that does matter. um, and um, I haven't heard people about this kind of stuff in Slab City or about Slab City, and not just about this. What I'm talking about is not just about Slab City. It's about the community I came from in the Bay Area, of like you know, accountability and how. One second. And how we, as a community, can step up. And again, I didn't get very far, so um, is that either's fault? No, it's just not. like again, there should be space for like be able to hold differences and different places where people are in life. And again, it hurts my heart like that a community with so many potentials are being held down by a few people who do have more power and misuse of privilege, and living in a 99% light-skinned community that does not break down the oppressional like system of oppression, or the intersection of like how certain disadvantages do impact people, and it's beyond race, it's beyond class, it's people's health, it's people's mental health, the ability of the able to maintain the family, if the family is able to maintain their shit and their drama. I don't understand that cannot be part of the discourse for the greater good. Because to be honest, I would be there right now. I would be there doing what I need to do while I'm cleaning up the trash at Pasadena and other places each day, uh, unrecognized. And then it's interesting that I even like, if I think it's funny that I get then comments online of like, oh, so the next video you're gonna clean up. I have cleaned up, not just at Slab City, but everywhere we go, every single day, at least 16 gallons of trash. Every single day. Because that's what I can contribute to when, beyond like me being able to take care of my basic needs and just to get up. And again, that is different for other people. Bless them, because we need those people. We need them, but not just for themselves. And I'm saying I'm shocked and just speechless of how that then still goes like that there. And when you address it, that it's like it's worse than burning down stuff, basically. Me addressing stuff that maybe in my experience the way it goes down there, again, no generalizations, or this is not the truth, but in itself, that in itself is a bigger threat than the people who hold so much power and are violent and leave people to die mock execution style after they come and seek them out. And then